Alright guys, in today's video we're going to be working on a problem with the power door lock on this 1999 Chevrolet Suburban. This is an old body style GMT 400. What we've got is a problem where in cold weather the solenoid's given out. So if we hit the button, if we kind of zoom in here, we can see that she's not actuating. Right? She's moving a little bit, but she's not moving to the unlock or lock position. I've shown this in the past for the rear. It's the same part number. There's a different part number for the left-hand side, and there's a different part number for the right-hand side from GM. But the disassembly and the installation procedures are different enough that I figured I'd take you guys along while we did the front here. So I'm going to go get some tools, and we're going to get started. All right, as we get started, we don't want to run the battery down with this light and the other interior lights. So right up here on the headlight switch, we're going to push this button in, and that's going to disable that lighting after it times out. All right, we'll start with this trim bezel here. There's clips on all three sides, so we're going to get a flat edge trim tool to get those to disengage. There's that one, and then there's one on the bottom. Come on. All right, there we go. So with that off, next thing is these two screws here, two Phillips screws. There's one. Almost one. And there's two. All right, with those two guys off and this trim panel off, then there's a number of clips around the perimeter. There's males attached to this cover piece that go into females that are in the door. So just pick a side. Actually, there's one up here in the corner. That's kind of like a decorative piece that covers the attachment for the mirror. We'll take this off first, and then we'll get the rest of these off. So this is what you got. You got these clips like this. There's the male clips, and then the females are pushed into the actual steel. All right, so that guy out of the way, we can work the rest of them off. Sometimes you can kind of grab them by hand. It just depends on how long it's been since they've been off. There's that one. All right, we did not need to use a tool. One more up here. And now we just want to work this out the top where it's plugged in by the glass. See these clips in here. So now we are going to take this light out of here, and we got a speaker connection over here. Let me see if I can twist this. I'm going to sit it on my shoe so it doesn't get scratched. It's just a push type connector and a push down, pull off. And now we got a series. So what's going to happen, by the way, these little clips, they come out very easily. So a couple of them already fell on the ground. We'll have to get those and put them back later. So now we want to get the plugs off of the electrical connector. And try to rotate this back around again just so I can see. As you're doing this, watch your speaker, or one of these little pins will poke a hole in it. Trying to figure out which side has the push tab. Okay, I'm going to have to get in front of you guys for a minute and identify that, and then we'll come back. All right, guys, if we zoom in here, I really can't film removing these connectors for you because they're really tight quarters here. We can't get the right amount of light for me to see and for the camera to see, so I'm going to show it to you one at a time. So this one on the outside here If we zoom in, we can see there's a little tab that you have to pull away from a retainer right there. Right, so if you get a pick or something in here, I've already pulled it part way right there. There's the little tab that it retains. So if you pull this guy out past that, then we'll be able to get him off. Right? So basically what you got is this tab here grabs onto this little retainer right there. Now the one next to it is just a push-in type. This guy right here for the switch, you just have to get a pick under here, push this in, and then you'll be able to remove that one. Now this last one on the bottom, or this next to last one, there's one here and there's one here. This one on the bottom, it's got a similar kind of connector. Hopefully there's enough light for you to see it. If we zoom in down here, we can see right there, there's another connector here, retainer, that we need to push in. I don't know if I can get it pushed in with just the one hand here. We'll give it a shot. Now I'm going to need to get under there and push a lot harder. So I'm going to push onto that and get this one out, and then I'll show you to get this last one out over here. All right, so on this one here, this is what I was talking about. This guy right here. You're going to push that in, and that's going to release right there. So that's 3 out of 4. Let me orient this thing around for the last one. All right, guys, if you have one of those trim panel clips break off or is lost, you can replace it with a GM 1596-0325. They'll be already pre-mated inside the package. The idea is you stick the female piece into the door frame, it gets stuck on those 2 tabs, and you could use your trim tool to pull the male piece out and put it into the trim panel. If you just need the male, then you can separate these in the box. You just need to get a couple of trim tools and pry them apart. Whoops. My finger here, keep that from popping out like that. Then we'll just give this guy a pry. All right, and then you can just use the male piece just like that. And you can keep the female as a backup. All right, we got this guy out. You just want to make sure you've got all of these male connectors back in. At some point in its life, this one lost one of the mounts, so we can't put one there, but there should be one there. All the others are there. If we come back over here, what happened with this last clip, it was unfortunately too old and it broke. But what we were trying to do is come in with a pair of pliers and give it a little pinch. That's how this one works. But these plastics can be very brittle, so that one did not survive the repair. All right, guys, just a real quick clip here of what this is supposed to look like for one of these spares that I have that I'll use to repair the broken one. What we wanted to do before this gave out was come in here with the pliers, right? Reach in here and give this guy a squeeze and push him down. That was what I was trying to show you on that previous clip. All right, so what were we after? So if we pull this water deflector away, what we're after is right behind here. These 2 rivets are holding the power door lock solenoid. So we will be able to reach our hand up through here, and I can feel this guy, but we're going to want to come in from the top too. So we're going to come around and we're going to remove these perimeter bolts to this frame here. So let me get this trim panel out of the way. This looks like it might be a 7 or an 8 millimeter. That one's not even tightened in all the way. And we'll see if we can get this out so we can get our hand in the top here. The last thing I show you here on the side, if you come in and look right here, you can see there's the end of the actuator where it connects to the rod right there. So, you know, our prize is right here. We're almost there. right, that should be enough. Now if you look right down here, there's the solenoid. So that's what we're after. So next thing we're going to do is lift up this rubber dust cover boot thing, and we're going to get it disconnected. And if we look on the far edge here where my finger is, right on this side, you can see the kind of retaining tab this guy has. We're just going to kind of lift out on it, and that allows us to disconnect it. It goes in this down position because there's a little loop underneath. It's like a drip rail for it, for the water. All right, so next thing we're going to have to do is drill these two rivets out. We're going to drill the heads off. I'm going to start with an 11/64 size bit, and then we'll step it up to a 3/16, and that should be enough to take care of them. Actually, let me stick something here for the shavings. So you don't make as much of a mess. Move up to a 3/16 now. Come on. You don't want to drill through and make the hole bigger, so we're just trying to get this head off. Just like that. All right, I think we had a couple of these little shavings fly over here. Okay. So now, if we look back in up top here, we can pull this guy off of the rod just by push this grommet through. And there it is. So there's our shot assembly. Sometimes the other ends of the rivets can fall off inside here and you have to fish them out, but in this case we got the whole unit out intact. So what are we replacing this with? So we're doing the left-hand driver's side door. There's a different part number for the left-hand side and a different part number for the right-hand side. The part number for the left-hand side, these are discontinued, but you can still hunt them down for these genuine GM ones. It's a GM 2207 1947, and the passenger side is a 1946. I'll put search links to both these part numbers in the description of this video. And what you're going to get inside here, you're going to have a new unit. It's just like the one we took off. And you're going to get the replacement rivets, because this mounts with the rivet gun. And then there's some instructions. These instructions are probably, just guessing here, they're probably pretty dated because this is something that goes back to some really old model years. Yeah, so you can see the trim on this is from the earlier GMT 400s, like the pre-95 type trim. This is a 99 Suburban, and it's got the same kind of trim that everything switched to before it ended in 95. But so here you can see there's the plug we removed from this guy. There's the drip loop they want to have in there for the water that's running down. They're just showing you where it rivets in. Let's see what they have. I'm sure these instructions are not greatly different than what I'm walking you through. They just walk through about removing the panel, and they walk through doing the replacement, drilling out the rivets. So I'll leave it there for you guys if you want to see what they had to say. All right, so now let's get the new one in. All right, so we're just going to take the new one, open up our rivets here. Come on, get out of there. Just take 2 of them. I guess, I'm not sure why they give you more than 2. I mean, I guess, I could see giving you 3. I don't know how you need to have, what did they give you here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Maybe that's just the smallest that their supplier is willing to give. Now, sometimes when these grommets are new, my experience has been it can be super hard to get that rod back in there. We'll try it naked like this, but we might have to put a little silicone lubricant on there. So let's try it naked first. There we go. All right. And then I'm not going to plug it in yet. Let's get these rivets on first. There's a wiring harness right here, right? We want to get that where it's not going to get pinched by this bracket. Don't let that get stuck under there and get it riveted by mistake. All right, and we're going to find these holes. There's rivet 1. You can use this kind of shank here to center these rivets. All right. Now let me get the rivet gun and put them in, and I'm realizing I left the rivet gun on the shop. Let me go get that. All right, so for something this thick, I'm going to use this one, just because it can give me more leverage to squeeze this guy. Once it gets all the way, this piece will break off, right? It's just a typical pop rivet kind of deal. This is just an old gun, so sometimes these get stuck in there. Just get it to pop out, and we'll do the next one. Make sure I push this guy in, and then we'll give it a squeeze. All right. That's it. These little guys will break off in your tool, right? It'll make little marks as it grabs them. And then at some point, when they've tightened all the way, they'll fatigue and pop off. Come on. All right, so there's that. Let's get this waterproof boot thing back over it. Make sure it's covering the whole enchilada, and we're done. We're going to put these perimeter bolts back in, and then we'll give it a test. All right, we're going to torque all of these 7mm bolts to 18 inch-pounds all the way around. And then the next thing I'm going to do here is the rod that we attached right here runs in these 2 little nylon tracks. I'm going to pop this guy out. Just like that. And what we're going to do is we're going to clean up this rod, going to get it nice and clean with the debris just to help it move back and forth, and then we're going to lubricate it with a little silicone. So let me get that cleaned up, and then I'll show you what we're using to lubricate that. All right, so I'm going to use some of this 3M silicone paste. I'm not going to use a whole lot. In fact, I probably am just going to use my finger here. I'm going to come up from underneath this access hole, and I'm going to put it inside this little runner that it sits in. There's one there, and this one over here. Just trying to not have any excess friction on this mechanism. All right. And then let's put this guy back in to this one. And this guy back into this one. Okay, just grab a rag over here and get this stuff off my fingers. And we want to make sure that we can move everything by hand okay and get that worked in. All right, looks good. Now, going to have to hook up the power and we'll see if it works. All right, guys, just a couple of quick shots of the service manual. So when we're putting this door module and securing it back to the door frame, we're going to want to put all of those bolts to 18 inch-pounds, those 7 millimeters around the perimeter. If you happen to have taken the 10 millimeter one that sits right here on the edge, that also counts in the inner panel bolts that go to 18 inch-pounds. And then the next thing would be the water deflector. So when we're replacing the water deflector, we're going to need to re-adhere it with either waterproof tape or 3M 77 or 777. I'm going to be using the spray to get it to re-stick, because that serves an important purpose. And the last torque value I'll give you is when we're putting the actual door panel back on, those two screws, those two Phillips screws that go in the handle, those two armrest screws also go to 18 inch-pounds. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to come in here where our water deflector needs to mount. I'm just going to take some ammonia Windex if we see dust or dirt where we need to get this back before we use the adhesive we saw in the service manual clip to reattach it. So I'm going to clean this up, prepare for that step, and then we'll come back. All right, we're just going to connect the power door lock switch, nothing else. We're going to make sure that everything is working okay. Perfect. All right. All right, so repaired. So now what we'll do is we'll reattach the water deflector. I'm not even going to bother unplugging this. I'm just going to sit it out of the way. We'll go ahead and get this remounted. All right, I'm going to be using Super 77 to glue this guy back on. Just going to get a feel for where was it originally adhered on all these darker areas. We got a little bit down here. All right, we'll go ahead and let that set up for a moment, and then we'll attach it. All right. We don't have a whole lot of time to work with this stuff, but should be okay. All right, that looks, we did a spray here on this little foam noise insulator as well. All right, we're ready to plug in the rest of the connectors and get this guy remounted. Hopefully nothing fell out while we were messing around with that. So this is the power window switch and the rear outside mirror switch, and then the power window switch. And there goes one of our little clips. All right, and then our speaker. All right, we got to go fetch our little clip that fell, and then we'll be ready to mount this. And then we'll put this light in before we hang it. All right, with our light plugged back in, we'll get the top set back into the channel first. And then what we're going to have to do is we're going to walk around the edge and get these males lined up with these females. Now remember, this is the one on this particular door that's broken on the trim, so we can't do anything with that one. I'm going to get underneath and do the same thing. We're going to line these up and push it in. All right, after going around and lining them all up, then we can push them all in. All right, and then we can tuck this little guy in a similar fashion. Just to come in here, make sure he's going in. There's all for that one. This little trim piece just snaps back in here on these clips. And then we've got these two screws. One and one I don't see at the moment. Okay, I got to find that other screw. Those also get torqued to 18 inch-pounds. Let me go see where we dropped this screw. All right, guys. Found that rolled underneath the vehicle somehow. This is a torque screwdriver, so 18 inch-pounds on this guy as well. All right, the job is done. Go ahead and check that you have all the connectors reseated, of course. I should have mentioned that earlier to make sure you didn't disable your power windows or your power mirror. But we've succeeded in replacing the actuator, and we have the power door locks working again. If you found this video useful and it helped you get your repair done for less money by doing it yourself, I'd appreciate you paying it forward by hitting that like button. And as always, thanks for watching.